So, I got something super cool for you today, Adrian. It's this report about Apple's latest secret health project that I'm confident is going to blow your mind.
Oh, oh my goodness. I've been absolutely dying to talk about this one. Project Mulberry, right? The AI doctor thing they're supposedly building into iOS 19.4.
Yeah, exactly that. I, uh, just read about it this morning and thought, wow, this is perfect for our podcast. Welcome, everyone, to Project Mulberry. Will Apple's AI doctor in iOS 19.4 replace human physicians?
And I think this is genuinely one of the most interesting developments we've seen from Apple in years. The idea that they're creating an AI health coach that could essentially, well, replicate your actual doctor is just mind-blowing to me.
It really is. According to Bloomberg's Mark Gurman, Apple is developing this whole revamped health app with this AI agent, and it's set to come out next spring. Do you think, could this actually work?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Because on one hand, Apple has all this health data already, especially from Apple Watch users. But on the other hand, creating something that could replace a real physician, that's a massive undertaking, right?
So, what exactly do we know about Project Mulberry? Based on Mark Gurman's report, what's Apple actually cooking up here?
Well, so Project Mulberry is essentially Apple's codename for this completely revamped health app that they're working on. And the centerpiece of it all is this new ASI health coach that's supposed to, act as a kind of digital doctor. According to Gurman, the whole thing is on track to launch in iOS 19.4, which would put it somewhere around next spring or early summer.
That's, pretty soon, actually. Do we know if this has been in development for a while, or is this like a new initiative?
Oh, it's definitely been in the works for some time now. From what Gurman says, the project has taken many twists and turns along the way, and it's actually pulled in different teams from across Apple, including their artificial intelligence group. But now development is apparently full steam ahead for that iOS 19.4 release window, right?
I'm curious about how much of a priority this is for Apple. Like, is this just another feature, or does it seem more significant?
It seems huge, honestly. Like, this isn't just a minor update. This is potentially transformative for how people interact with their health data. The way I understand it, the revamped app will take all that health information Apple already collects, especially from Apple Watch users, and then feed it into this new AI coach to generate personalized health recommendations.
So it's almost like having a doctor, in your pocket who knows everything about your health history.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so fascinating, because your Apple devices already track your steps, your heart rate, your sleep patterns, your activity levels, all of that. And now imagine an AI that can actually interpret all that data and give you meaningful advice about it. It's like turning all that raw health data into actionable insights.
Is there any indication of what it might be called when it officially launches? Project Mulberry is just the internal codename, right?
Yeah, so Mulberry is definitely just the internal codename. But interestingly, Gurman mentioned that some people inside Apple are already referring to this service as Health Plus, which would fit with their other subscription services like Fitness Plus and TV Plus. So it's possible, that this might actually be something they charge for as part of their services business.
That would make sense with their, business model lately. They've been really pushing those subscription services.
Absolutely. And health is such a massive industry, right? If they can position themselves as not just collecting health data, but actually helping you interpret and act on it, that's a whole new level of value they can offer users.
So, let's talk about Tim Cook's vision here. This isn't just some random feature Apple's throwing into iOS, right? It feels bigger than that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. This is actually central to Tim Cook's entire legacy at Apple. He's gone on record multiple times saying that he believes Apple's greatest contribution to humanity won't be like the iPhone or the Mac or any device, but their impact on health. And this Project Mulberry seems to be the most ambitious step in that direction so far.
That's fascinating. Has he been pushing this health direction for a while now?
Yeah, for years actually. If you look at the evolution from the first Apple Watch with basic heart rate monitoring to now having ECG blood oxygen, temperature sensing. It's all been building toward this vision, right? Cook clearly sees health as this massive opportunity where technology can make a real difference in people's lives. And frankly, it's also a massive market opportunity, which, doesn't hurt Apple's bottom line either.
So it's both altruistic and strategic at the same time?
Exactly, exactly. That's what makes it such a brilliant business move. Healthcare is literally trillions of dollars globally, right? And it's an industry that's absolutely ripe for disruption with technology. So by positioning Apple at the intersection of health and technology, Cook is essentially creating this whole new growth vector for the company, beyond just selling more phones and computers.
Do you think this represents a shift away from their core business? Or more of an expansion?
It's definitely an expansion rather than a shift. Apple isn't abandoning hardware. They're just leveraging that hardware as the foundation for these new health services. The Apple Watch is basically a health sensor on your wrist, your iPhone is the processor and interface, and now this AI health coach is the brain that makes sense of it all. It's like they've been laying the groundwork for years without us fully realizing where it was all heading.
What do you think this means for their long-term strategy?
I think it positions Apple as not just a tech company, but as a health company. And that's huge, because health is something everyone cares about, regardless of how tech-savvy they are. My parents might not care about the latest processor chip, but they absolutely care about their health. So it potentially broadens Apple's appeal to a whole different demographic. And if they can establish themselves as a trusted health advisor through this AI doctor concept, that creates incredibly sticky customer relationships.
That's actually a really good point about trust. Apple has always positioned itself as being very privacy-focused, which seems critical for something like health data.
100%. Their emphasis on privacy and doing AI processing on-device rather than in the cloud could be a massive competitive advantage here. Because who wants their most sensitive health data floating around on some server, right? Apple's built this reputation as the privacy company, and that might be their secret weapon in healthcare.
So, I'm really curious about the nuts and bolts of this AI health coach. How exactly is it going to work for the average person with an iPhone and Apple Watch?
So the really fascinating thing about this is that it's essentially going to leverage all that health data Apple's already collecting from you, right? Think about it. If you wear an Apple Watch, they've got your heart rate, your sleep patterns, your activity levels, your blood oxygen in some models, and that's just scratching the surface. All this data that's already being collected but maybe not fully utilized is going to become the foundation for personalized recommendations.
Will people need to input additional information beyond what their devices are tracking automatically?
Good question. From what I understand, the system will definitely work better with more data points. So while it'll use all that passive data collection, users will probably get more value if they also log things the devices can't automatically track yet. Like their mood, their stress levels, maybe specific symptoms they're experiencing. The AI coach is designed to connect dots between all these different health markers that humans might miss,
That actually reminds me of something I've experienced. Sometimes I feel tired, but don't immediately connect it to poor sleep from 3 nights ago or that I skipped my walks that week.
Exactly. That's the kind of pattern recognition where AI could really shine. It might notice that every time you sleep less than 6 hours for 2 consecutive nights and then have a day with fewer than 5,000 steps, you report feeling fatigued 48 hours later. And then it could proactively suggest interventions before you even feel bad, like, hey, you might want to prioritize an early bedtime tonight, or consider a short walk this afternoon.
Will it be able to alert people about serious health concerns? That seems like it could be crossing into medical territory.
That's actually such an important question. Apple's walking a really fine line here. They're being super careful about regulatory issues. My understanding is that the AI coach will flag concerning patterns but probably won't be making actual diagnoses. Instead, it might say something like, your heart rate variability has shown significant changes over the past month. Consider discussing this with your healthcare provider. And then one of those expert videos from their Oakland facility might play, explaining what heart rate variability is and why changes might matter.
How personalized do you think these recommendations will really be? I worry sometimes about getting very generic health advice.
Based on Gurman's reporting, Apple is aiming for something genuinely personalized, not just generic health tips. The AI is being trained to understand how different factors interact differently for different people. Like, caffeine might disrupt one person's sleep but not another's, or exercise might lower one person's blood pressure but barely affect someone else's. The power is really in having longitudinal data about you specifically and finding your unique patterns.
That sounds incredibly powerful, but also a bit, I don't know, maybe unsettling to some people.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I think there will definitely be people who find it creepy to have an AI analyzing their health so closely. But I also think many will find it incredibly valuable, especially those managing chronic conditions or who are really into optimizing their health. It's kind of like having a healthcare professional who's monitoring you 24/7 and can spot subtle changes that might be meaningful.
So, I'm really curious about this AI. How is Apple actually building this system? Like, where are they getting the medical knowledge from?
Well, this is actually super interesting. According to Gurman's report, Apple is quite literally training the AI on data from their own hired physicians. So they've got doctors on staff, right, who are feeding their expertise into this system. And it's not just any doctors. They're bringing in specialists from across different medical fields to make sure this thing is actually, properly informed.
Do we know what kind of specialists they're working with?
Yeah, so they're casting a pretty wide net here. They're looking to bring in sleep experts, nutritionists, physical therapists, mental health professionals, cardiologists, basically covering all the major bases of what contributes to overall health. The idea is that each specialist brings their domain expertise, and the AI can then, integrate all of this knowledge into a more holistic understanding of health.
That makes sense. But how do they actually get that knowledge from the human experts into an AI system?
So from what I understand, they're approaching this in a couple different ways. First, they're having these experts create actual videos that will be played in the app to explain health trends to users. These are being recorded at this new facility they've built in Oakland, California. But beyond that, I think the experts are also helping to train the underlying AI models by providing, the kinds of assessments and recommendations they would make given certain patterns in health data.
So these videos aren't just generic health advice. They'll be tailored to what the user is experiencing?
Exactly. The idea seems to be that when the AI detects something noteworthy in your health data, it can trigger one of these expert videos that explains what might be happening and why it matters. So if your sleep quality has declined over several weeks, you might get a video from a sleep specialist explaining possible causes and strategies to improve. It's adding that human element to the digital experience, right?
That's actually pretty clever. I've always found that hearing something from an actual expert feels more trustworthy than just reading text from an app.
Right. And get this. Apple is apparently searching for what Gurman called a major doctor personality to serve as a kind of host for the new service. Some people inside Apple are even referring to this whole thing as Health Plus, which obviously fits with their other subscription services like Fitness Plus and TV Plus.
Oh, so do you think this could be something they charge for rather than just including it in iOS?
That's a really good question. The report doesn't specifically say it'll be a paid service, but the naming convention definitely suggests that possibility. And honestly, given the level of expert involvement and the amount of custom content they're creating with these specialists, I wouldn't be surprised if at least some premium features end up behind a subscription. But they might offer basic functionality as part of the standard health app.
I wonder how these experts feel about potentially having their knowledge distilled into an AI system. Do you think there's any concern about eventually making their own roles obsolete?
That's such an interesting ethical question. I think most medical professionals would argue that there's so much nuance to healthcare that I won't be replacing them anytime soon. But these experts are definitely contributing to something that could change how people interact with healthcare information. I suspect many of them see it as extending their reach rather than replacing their jobs. Like helping more people access quality health guidance even when they can't see a specialist in person.
So tell me more about this Oakland facility. What exactly is Apple building there?
So Apple's going all in with this new facility in Oakland, California, and it's specifically designed for recording these expert videos, right? Like they've created this professional grade setup where these health specialists can come in and basically film content that explains different health trends to users. It's kind of like, those really well-produced educational videos that make complex topics easier to understand? That's what they're going for here.
Do we know how big this facility is? Is this a major investment for them?
The report doesn't give us the exact details on the size, but knowing Apple, they don't really do things halfway, you know what I mean? This seems to be a significant part of their strategy for Project Mulberry. They want these videos to look polished and professional, totally on brand with Apple's usual aesthetic. And considering they're bringing in experts from all these different medical fields, they're clearly putting serious resources behind this.
That makes sense for Apple. Quality is sort of their thing.
Exactly. And what's really interesting is this search for what Gurman called a major doctor personality to be the face of the service. They're apparently looking for someone who's already got some public recognition. Maybe someone who's already been on TV or has a strong media presence to serve as like a host or a guide through this whole Health Plus experience.
So, like a Dr. Oz type of figure, but hopefully more credible.
Yeah. But definitely with more scientific credibility. I think they want someone who has that perfect balance of being charismatic and engaging on camera, but also has the medical credentials to back it up. Someone who can translate complex medical concepts into everyday language that users will understand and trust.
I wonder who they might be considering.
Well, there are quite a few respected physicians with media experience out there, like Dr. Sanjay Gupta from CNN comes to mind, or maybe someone like Dr. Peter Attia who has that popular health podcast. But whoever they choose would obviously need to align with Apple's approach to health. And they'd need to be willing to be closely associated with this product for potentially years to come, right?
Do you think having this doctor personality is about building trust with users?
Absolutely. I think that's exactly it. When you're dealing with something as personal and important as health, trust is everything. And let's be honest, people tend to trust humans more than algorithms, especially for medical advice. So by having this recognizable medical figure as the face of the service, Apple's trying to bridge that gap and make users feel more comfortable accepting guidance from what is essentially an AI system.
That makes a lot of sense. So these videos will be triggered when the AI notices something in your health data?
Right. From what we understand, the videos won't just be generic content that everyone sees. Instead, they'll be personalized recommendations based on patterns in your data. So if the AI notices that your heart rate variability has been declining, it might trigger a video from a cardiologist explaining what that metric means and offering some evidence-based suggestions for improvement, all delivered by either this main doctor personality or one of the specialists they've brought on board.
So what about nutrition tracking? That seems like it would be a huge part of any health app.
So nutrition and food tracking are actually going to be like a major focus of this revamped health app. And it makes total sense because, what we eat is probably one of the most important factors in our overall health. Apple seems to recognize that, and they're really going all in on making food tracking a central component of Project Mulberry.
I've tried so many food tracking apps before. They're always such a pain to use consistently.
Oh yeah, totally. Food tracking is notoriously difficult to maintain because it's so tedious, right? You have to log everything you eat, try to estimate portions, and do this multiple times every single day. But from what Gurman is reporting, Apple's approach might be different because they're leveraging AI to make the whole process more seamless and actually helpful rather than just collecting data.
How exactly will the AI help with food tracking?
Well, the AI agents will apparently analyze your eating patterns and offer personalized nutrition advice based on your specific health goals and metrics. So instead of just counting calories, which is what most apps do, this could potentially look at the quality of nutrients you're consuming and how they might be affecting other health markers that your Apple Watch is already tracking. Like your sleep patterns, your energy levels, your workout recovery, things like that.
That sounds way more useful than just logging calories.
Exactly. And I imagine they might incorporate some kind of visual recognition technology too, where you could take a photo of your meal and the AI could identify what's on your plate. There are already apps that do this, but they're not always accurate. With Apple's machine learning capabilities, they could potentially take this to a whole new level.
Do you think it will give specific diet recommendations?
That's a really interesting question because there's a fine line between health coaching and medical advice. My guess is that rather than saying you should be on a keto diet or something specific like that, it might focus more on general patterns like, we notice you tend to feel more energetic on days when you eat more protein in the morning, or your sleep quality seems to improve when you eat dinner earlier. It's more about helping you recognize patterns in your own data rather than prescribing a specific diet.
Could this actually help people develop healthier eating habits?
I think it absolutely could. The thing that makes habits stick is when you get consistent feedback and can see the results, right? So if the AI can show you clear connections between what you eat and how you feel or perform, That's That's really powerful motivation. Plus, having personalized recommendations rather than generic advice makes people much more likely to actually follow through. It's the difference between everyone should eat more vegetables and, based on your specific health data, adding more leafy greens might help with that afternoon energy crash you've been experiencing.
So I was reading about another really interesting feature they're planning. Apple wants to use the iPhone's camera to analyze workouts. How would that even work?
So yeah, this is actually super fascinating. According to Gurman's report, they're developing features that would tap into the cameras on Apple devices, primarily the one on the back of your iPhone. And the idea is, to let this AI agent actually study how you're performing exercises and then and then give you pointers on improving your technique in real time.
Wouldn't that be awkward, though? Having to prop up your phone while you're working out?
Well, I mean, people already do this all the time, right? How many times have you been to the gym and seen someone with their phone propped against a water bottle or something to record themselves? People are constantly filming their workouts to check their form or to post on social media. The difference here is that instead of you having to analyze your own form, the AI would do it for you and actually give you, actionable feedback.
That makes sense. I guess I'm wondering about the accuracy, though. Can AI really understand proper exercise form?
That's a really good question. My guess is that they're training these models on thousands of examples of correct and incorrect form for different exercises. The iPhone cameras are already pretty sophisticated with spatial awareness, especially with the Light AR scanners on the Pro models. They can already detect body positions for features like posture alerts, so extending this to workout analysis seems like a natural progression.
Do you think this will connect with Apple Fitness Plus?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's actually one of the most exciting possibilities here. Gurman specifically mentioned that this camera feature could eventually play into other Apple services, including the existing Fitness Plus platform. So imagine you're doing a Fitness Plus workout, and not only do you have the instructor guiding you, but you also have this AI coach giving you personalized feedback on your specific form.
Would it be like, your knees are too far forward in that squat or something?
Yeah, exactly. It could say things like, try keeping your back straighter, or your left side is working harder than your right, or even suggest modifications if it detects that you're struggling with a particular movement. And what's cool is that over time, it would learn your specific movement patterns and weaknesses and tailor its coaching to you specifically.
That sounds almost like having a personal trainer.
It really does. And personal trainers are, really expensive. This could democratize that kind of personalized coaching. The other thing that's super interesting is how this might expand beyond just traditional workouts. Could it analyze your running gait, your swimming stroke, your golf swing? The applications are pretty endless once you have the core technology in place.
So, this all sounds really cool, but I can't help wondering about the ethical implications here. Are people really going to trust an AI to give them health advice? That feels like a pretty big leap, right?
That's actually a really good point, Anna. I think trust is going to be one of the biggest hurdles Apple faces with Project Mulberry. Because, health is incredibly personal, and people have spent decades building relationships with their doctors. The idea of an algorithm suddenly telling you what to eat or how to exercise or even identifying potential health issues, that's going to make some people really uncomfortable.
What about privacy? Apple already collects so much health data from our watches and phones. Adding AI analysis seems like another level entirely.
So Apple has actually been really, really good about privacy compared to other tech companies. Health data is encrypted on your device, and they've been very clear that they don't want to see your personal health information. But you're right that this takes things further. The question becomes, how much of your health data needs to be processed in the cloud versus on-device for this AI to work effectively? And even if Apple doesn't see the data, the fact that an AI is analyzing all these intimate details about your body and habits, it's definitely entering new territory.
Do you think people might start to rely too heavily on this AI doctor and skip regular checkups?
That's a legitimate concern. There's this concept in medicine called appropriate dependence, which is basically the idea that patients should be engaged with their health but still recognize when they need professional help. If someone starts thinking, well, my Apple Health app didn't flag anything unusual, so I must be fine, that could potentially lead to misdiagnoses or delayed treatment.
I wonder how Apple will handle liability issues. What happens if the AI misses something serious?
Oh man, this is actually a really complicated legal area. Apple will almost certainly include disclaimers saying this isn't a replacement for professional medical care. But the more their marketing positions this as your AI doctor, the murkier those waters get. I mean, we've already seen companies like Fitbit and Apple get FDA clearance for certain health features, like ECG monitoring. But an AI that's making broader health assessments, that's a whole different level of regulatory scrutiny.
What about algorithmic bias? We know AI can sometimes have blind spots depending on how it's trained.
Absolutely right. This is a huge issue in healthcare AI. If Apple's training data doesn't include diverse populations, different ethnicities, ages, body types, genders, then the AI might be less accurate for certain groups. For example, we already know that skin tone affects the accuracy of the Apple Watch's heart rate sensor. Similar issues could affect how this AI interprets health data or gives recommendations.
Do you think Apple is thinking about all these ethical questions?
I think they have to be. Apple has been very deliberate about its move into health, and Tim Cook has repeatedly emphasized that they want to approach it responsibly. But at the end of the day, they're still a tech company, not a healthcare provider, and they're still going to prioritize creating products people want to buy. The question is whether they can balance innovation with the special responsibilities that come with playing in the healthcare space.
So, this brings us to the big question, doesn't it? Could AI health coaches like Project Mulberry actually replace human doctors someday? That feels like such a sci-fi concept, but here we are talking about it.
That's definitely the million-dollar question, right? And I think we need to be really careful about how we frame this, because there's a huge difference between AI as a complementary tool versus AI as a replacement. Like, when we look at what Project Mulberry is actually doing right now, it's more about analyzing trends in your health data and making suggestions based on that analysis. It's not diagnosing complex conditions or, performing surgery or anything like that.
But couldn't it evolve to do more over time? Technology tends to start small and then expand its capabilities, right?
Oh, absolutely. The trajectory of AI is definitely moving toward more advanced capabilities. But, there are some fundamental aspects of medicine that are just really hard to replicate with technology. Like, the human touch is so important in healthcare. The way a doctor can pick up on subtle cues in your body language or build rapport and trust over years. That's incredibly valuable. And honestly, I don't think Apple is trying to replace that relationship entirely.
What about diagnostics, though? Couldn't AI eventually become better at spotting patterns and potential health issues than humans?
So, there's actually some really fascinating research showing that in certain narrow applications, AI can already outperform human doctors. Like, there was this study where an AI could detect certain types of cancer from imaging with greater accuracy than radiologists. But diagnosing is just one piece of what doctors do, right? They also have to consider your full medical history, your lifestyle, your preferences, your family situation, all these contextual factors that affect treatment decisions.
Do you think patients would even accept an AI replacement? I mean, health decisions are so personal.
I think it varies a lot by generation and by the type of healthcare we're talking about. Like, younger people who've grown up with technology might be more comfortable getting basic health advice from an AI. But for serious conditions or life-changing decisions, I think most people still want that human connection. They want to look their doctor in the eye and, feel that this person truly cares about their well-being.
What about areas where healthcare access is limited? Could AI help there?
That's actually where I see the biggest potential benefit. In areas with doctor shortages or limited access to specialists, AI tools could be genuinely transformative. If someone living in a rural area can get preliminary assessments or monitoring through their phone, that could be life-changing. So it's not about replacing doctors completely, but extending their reach and making healthcare more accessible.
So you think it'll be more of a partnership between AI and human doctors?
Yeah, exactly. I think the most likely future is one where AI handles a lot of the routine stuff, monitoring, basic questions, tracking, which then frees up doctors to focus on the complex cases and the human aspects of care. The doctors who embrace AI as a tool will probably be more effective than either AI alone or doctors trying to avoid technology. It's like how calculators didn't replace mathematicians, they just let mathematicians focus on more interesting problems.
But what about Apple specifically? Where do you see Project Mulberry fitting into this future?
I think Apple is positioning itself as the connector between consumers and the healthcare system. They're not trying to replace your doctor. They're trying to give you tools that help you engage with your health more effectively and communicate better with your healthcare providers. And that's actually a really valuable role in the ecosystem.
So, we've talked about a lot today. What's your final take on Project Mulberry? Do you think it's actually gonna succeed?
I think it has enormous potential. Apple has this unique position where they've got millions of people already wearing Apple Watches and tracking health data. And they've been building toward this for years, right? It's not just some random new initiative. Tim Cook has been saying for ages that health would be Apple's greatest contribution.
But there must be challenges they'll face, right? Health information is so sensitive and personal.
Oh, absolutely. The biggest hurdle is definitely going to be trust. People need to feel comfortable sharing their health data with an AI system, and that's a high bar to clear. Privacy concerns are huge here, but if any tech company has positioned itself as privacy-focused, it's Apple, so they do have that advantage.
What about regulatory approval? Healthcare is so heavily regulated.
That's a great point. And actually, one of the reasons I think they're being careful to position this as a coach rather than a doctor, there's a significant difference between giving general wellness advice versus diagnosing conditions. The moment they cross into diagnostic territory, they'll face much stricter FDA oversight.
Do you think we'll see other tech companies follow suit?
Without a doubt. I mean, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, they're all invested in healthcare, AI already. But Apple has this ecosystem advantage with the Watch and iPhone working together, so they can collect data in ways others just can't. And that's really powerful for creating personalized health insights.
So, what's your prediction for 5 years from now?
In 5 years, I think we'll see AI health assistants become as common as fitness trackers are today. Not replacing doctors, but becoming this essential interface between people and the healthcare system. For routine stuff, your first stop might be your AI health coach, and it'll help determine if you need human medical attention. And I think Project Mulberry will be leading that transformation if Apple executes well.
Well, it's certainly an exciting time in healthcare technology. I'm looking forward to seeing how this all plays out when iOS 19.4 drops next spring.
Same here. And remember, this is just the beginning. The real question isn't whether AI will change healthcare. It's how we'll adapt our healthcare systems to make the best use of these new tools. That's where the real innovation needs to happen.